first guest. Joining us now is Bruce Fealk. Many of you know Bruce from his passionate activism for many years now. There is no question that when you want something done, you ask Bruce to do it. Chances are better than excellent, it'll get done. Well, he's been tasked with lots of things, and he's here to share with us some good news from the local perspective. And we're going to talk a few issues as well. So, Bruce, I want to welcome you to the Voice of the People, and thanks for making time for us this morning.
Oh, no problem. I'm really glad to be able to talk about this topic with you, Tony.
Well, before we get to our first topic, I want to let people know that you're once again in Wisconsin. I also want to let people know that you have been very gracious in helping me over the course of, a good 4 years now or more, Bruce, getting me some great guests on the show, and including the incomparable John Nichols and many other people like Sue Wilson, and more recently, Jonathan Simon. We're going to talk a little bit about him towards the later on in the interview. But so I just wanted to thank you for doing all that. In the meantime, the Oakland County Democratic Party, and I don't know if you saw Susan Demas's column last week on how significant Oakland County has become for the Democrats, but it would seem to me, Bruce, that the Oakland County Democratic Party is paying attention, and it looks like they're shining things up and getting ready to go for 2016 with a new website.
Yeah, we were, unfortunately last summer, the website literally broke, and I wasn't visiting that often, so I hadn't been paying attention. And websites, I don't know about you, Tony, but whenever I see a candidate announce that they're running for any office, whether it's a local office or, presidential office, the first thing I do is I go to their website, and I determine pretty much by their website how serious they are.
Oh, I agree with you.
So I took on the task of updating the website, and we went through a process. We talked to several web developers, and we settled on a local. Actually, Charles Gaba is brainwrap.com. He was the fellow that got the work, and I think he really did an excellent job, and we're really happy with the result.
Well, Charles, of course, is also responsible for Eclectablog, and so, yeah, I think we can say he knows what he's doing. Bruce, if you have the show on in the background, if you wouldn't mind muting it, I'd appreciate it.
You know what? I do have it on the background. I'm quite a ways away from my computer, so I'm surprised you can see it, but I'll mute it for you.
Yeah, we can hear it. It's slightly delayed, but we can definitely hear it. Anyway, with all that said, and I did place a link to the website address, by the way, has not changed, and I want to make sure that I make that clear up front. The website address is still the same, and I've linked that, of course, in both Facebook pages and tweeted it out at the top of the interview. But this was a major overhaul, and again, when we take a look at how important Oakland County has become to the Democrats, starting really with a massive effort by Gary Peters being elected to the House of Representatives. And then much of the progress is, again, Susan Demas pointed out, Bruce, in her article or in her op-ed at MLive, we now have a great many Democrats serving in important levels. Lisa Brown, Jim Nash, who pulled off a miracle a few years back, Andy Meisner, and others. I mean, Democrats are really making progress in Oakland County, and it has now become what was once a strong GOP really stalwart, really a toss-up, and it's about good candidates and good funding.
Well, that's true. We have made a lot of progress. However, our progress is definitely at risk. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what Brooks Patterson is trying to do. He's actually trying to change the year in which the county executive race would appear, so that they want it to appear in the gubernatorial years instead of the presidential years. So that's something happening on a local Oakland County level. And so we really want to have people, Democrats, no matter what your stripe of Democrat, make sure you go to the Oakland County Democratic website, OCDP.org. We're going to really focus on getting local news stories up, and we really want people that are listening that if you're a Democrat and you're paying attention to the news, we'd really love if you could supply us with some content. If you see an article that is of interest and you think will be of interest to other people, if you send that to info@ocdp.org, we'd love to have your input. We want this to be a two-way conversation as much as possible. Obviously, we're not going to let anybody into the back office, but if you have information that you think should be shared, whether it's an event, we have a special email address, events@ocdp.org. If you have an event coming up, if you're involved with a club or an issue that you think we need, if you want to have a protest or a rally and you want other people to show up, we can put it on our Facebook page. We can put it up on our website. We have already, I think, over 50 events on our events page. We've upgraded we're now running, I think, 6 bingos at our bingo hall. So we've got a lot more money coming in. There's some challenges with that coming up, but we're hoping that we can overcome those. But we're going to have some more money. We're going to have some more participation, and we really want people out there, because Oakland County, like you said, is a key area. Whether it's a local race or a presidential race, or a statewide race, if you don't carry Oakland County as a Democrat, you're going to be in big trouble.
Well, I've noticed of late, and I can't put months on it, but I have noticed of late that even the mainstream media is no longer ignoring the Oakland County Democratic Party. Now, I'll give a lot of credit to that, to your spectacular chair, Frank Houston. There is not a more dynamic state chair in the state, and we've got some great ones. And under Frank's leadership, we've seen profound growth with the Oakland County Democratic Party. But even the media is often quoting Frank and turning to him when news breaks. And I think that says something about the seriousness of the work that the entire organization is doing, not just what Frank himself is doing. Bruce, as you know, none of us does any of this alone. And so we're, really thrilled with the work that's being done through the Oakland County Democratic Party. As you're aware, I was at a meeting a couple of months ago. I was astounded by how full the room was. And you guys were in a nice-sized room, and it was literally standing room only. In fact, folks were even standing in the hallway because the room got so full. Listen, I go to a lot of congressional district and party district and county district meetings, and they're not all that well attended. So there's something dynamic going on there.
Well, there definitely is, and I think the website's a big part of that now that we have it up and running again. The other reason that we wanted to upgrade the website is when we started the website, I think in 2006 or 2007, excuse me, there weren't very many mobile devices. The iPad was probably just a glimmer in Steve Jobs' eyes. There weren't all these smartphones. So what we've done specifically, I think you may have seen that Google said that Google searches for the first time, I think last month, there were more Google searches on mobile devices than there were on computers, regular, laptops and desktop computers. So it was really important to us to make sure that our website is now responsive, and what I mean by that is that it shows up really nicely, and you can read it on your smartphone, or your iPad, or any other tablet that you have. So it's we made a real big effort to make sure that it really looks nice on any kind of device that you might be viewing it on.
Well, one of the things I like about it is now what I would call a destination site. It's somewhere to go for more than just about us or upcoming events. It's going to become much more interactive, which I believe is why you were making the plea a little earlier for people to send news and information. And in building a destination site, then it starts to become like it is for you and I. I'm sure you've got your handful or more of sites. Mine is as long as my arm that I visit on a daily basis. Sometimes I'm there for just a minute or so. Sometimes I spend a great deal of time on them. Oftentimes I'll have 10 or 12 tabs open and go back and forth and refresh and, make sure I've got my information. But I see what you folks have done with the Oakland County Democratic Party website is moving in the direction of making it a destination, some place to go for news and information and to interact. And I think that other like-minded groups would be wise to follow in the steps of the Oakland County Democratic Party, Bruce.
Well, I 100% agree with you. It is definitely our goal to make it a destination site. We've got some new things. We just launched it officially on Tuesday. We had it up for about a month. We were just kind of working out the kinks, making sure it was ready to show to everybody. But, some of the things we're going to have coming, we're going to have a candidates page. A couple of the candidates were at our last meeting on Tuesday. They just have launched their website. There's a woman, Gwen Markham, she's running for mayor in Novi. That's a really important race. There's some city council races. So we want to make sure that all the Democrats that, you know, if there's some of the Democratic candidates are listening, or if they're just thinking about running, make sure you get in touch with us through the website and let us know when your website goes up, because we'd be more than happy to put up links to any candidate's website, Democrats, of course. And we've also, I'm really appreciative of all the work you're doing, Tony. And so we've put up an alternative news link on our website, and we've got links to your site and Eclecta blog. So we want to make sure that people like you, get their notice, because you're doing a great job, and there's not a lot of liberal talkers out there anymore. And I know your audience is really growing. In fact, what I did when you had Jonathan Simon on, that's obviously a topic, the voting issues that a lot of people are still not paying attention to. And when you talk about it, their eyes glaze over, like Jonathan has said on your show. It's not an issue that enough people are paying attention to. And I think it's really important that those interviews that you've done with Jonathan get listened to by as wide an audience as possible. You're doing you did a great service with Jonathan by having him on your show 3 times. Oh, and I did want to mention too, we are going to have a store. We haven't launched that yet, but we haven't decided on the stuff we're going to have available for people to purchase through our website. But now we've got a race in the Democratic Party for president, so that's exciting. We've got Bernie Sanders, and obviously Hillary Clinton is still a odds-on favorite to be the nominee. But we're going to be selling stuff for people to buy. It'll probably be Oakland County centric, and if people check back in a month or two, I'm confident we'll have a store up. And we have a letters to the editor page. So if people want to write a letter to the editor, they can go to our site and write a letter to the editor through a link on our site. There's voter information. That's a link to the Secretary of State if you want to check if you're registered to vote, which is obviously important. That's the first thing you have to do if you want to participate in our system, is get registered. So as we go forward, I think it's going to be a site that people are going to want to come to. Hopefully they'll get, like you said, it'll be a destination site, and they'll want to come to it, at least once a day and check and see, what news is happening in Oakland County and other places around the state.
Absolutely. Well, it's a beautiful site. I mean, besides the aesthetics, which are stunning, it is, again, incredibly functional and really offered with open arms. So, folks, I hope that you'll take advantage of the offer that Bruce has put out. Again, info@ocdp.org. If you've got some information to share, if you've got an event, then it's events or just event. Events with an S? Events with an S at ocdp.org. We'll get your event up. I know, like the Troy Democrats have their picnic every summer. We always have a President Obama birthday bash. That's usually, I think, around his birthday. I think that's usually in early August. That'll be happening coming up here at the end of the summer. So I'm just really excited that we've got a functional site, and it's up and ready in time for the presidential cycle and all the other important races, whether it's a state level, local level. There's just a lot of important elections taking place, obviously, as we go into a presidential cycle. And we wanted to be ready for people to visit our site, get the information they need. I'm sure we'll have Republican presidential candidates coming through town as we get deeper into the cycle. And as an activist, I like it when, whether it's Ted Cruz or any of the other, I like to refer to them as clowns, that are running for the Republican nomination this time around. I thought it couldn't get any worse than last time, but somehow it did. We have 18 to 20 Republicans that are going to be running for office. If it were up to me, I'd like every time any one of them comes through Oakland County or anywhere near Oakland County, I'd like to make sure that we have, 15, 20, 50 people there ready to greet them with their ridiculous views on pretty much every issue that I can possibly think of that's going to be important going into the presidential cycle. Well, and then not to mention all that's going on at the state level and all the work that needs to be done to fight back against that. Bruce, you had mentioned Jonathan Simon a few moments ago, and for those that have not heard that series, of course, it's available in the archives at the blogtalkradio.com website, and I would encourage them to go listen to those. But, this is really, I have ended up donning at the godfather of all issues. As an activist, as you and I both are, and an advocates that we both are, Really, it starts with making sure every vote counts. And we have more than enough reason to believe that our votes aren't counting in the way they need to. You are involved with a statewide group that is trying to clean up the electoral process here in the state of Michigan, make it transparent and accountable. And that's a much larger mountain to climb than people realize, because even Democrats have done nothing to change what we know is a fairly easy vote stealing scam.
Well, it's a really, it is. I was going to say it's the most important issue, or an important issue, but it is the most important issue. And it's like Jonathan mentioned, it's the hardest issue to get either party to pay attention to. So I was really happy and honored, really, that I was able to get Tim Greimel, the Michigan minority leader for the Democrats, to come to my house. We talked to him about it. It was really, I think, unique in that, usually you think of legislators being lobbied by, big money people. But Tim was gracious enough to come to my house. We had dinner. We spoke about the issue. We gave him our reports that I'll mention in a minute. He watched the last 22 minutes of a movie that was on HBO, Hacking Democracy. And I think you can find it online. If you just Google Hacking Democracy, everyone listening to the show really ought to go out there and watch just the last 22 minutes. And what that focuses on is the fact that scanners, which is the technology we use in Michigan, can be hacked. And there can be programs put on the memory card that every single one of those scanners use, and election results can easily be changed. And I talked to Tim. I said, look, Tim, you drove all around the country, all around the state, helping to elect Democrats in this last cycle. And imagine if all that work were for naught, just because the voting machines are not all they're cracked up to be as far as being transparent. We've turned over our vote counting to corporations. The vote counting of votes is not available to the average citizen out there in the public. If you want to watch your vote get counted, you cannot do it. Even in a recount, Tony, what people don't realize is even if there's a recount, you know what happens? The ballots get fed through the same machine again, and they get counted exactly the same way. That's a travesty that we can't even get an honest vote count. MIRA, the Michigan Election Reform Alliance, MichiganElectionReformAlliance.com. We have done study after study. There's an issue right now. Every voting machine in the state of Michigan is needing to be replaced. They're obsolete. They're 10, 12, 13 years old. It's a $65 million budget item. They're going out for bids right now, but they have no money. They have not allocated a penny in the budget to actually replace those machines. The machines are owned, the companies that make the machines are owned by companies like Dominion. I don't know about you, but that has a bad ring to it to me. And this is an issue that, I'm glad Jonathan was on the show and he's written his book, and everybody needs to read Code Red, and, call your legislator and say, this is an issue I want you to focus on, and we need to fix this.
Well, again, I continue to be astounded. And I think that when you talked about Democratic leaders Greimel's response to the information that you provided in the Hacking Democracy documentary, et cetera, when we take a look at the reality, and I loved Jonathan's solution to the problem when we talked yesterday about a little civil unrest where people just need to surround the actual machines at the end of the day and demand that the ballots that are inside them be counted by hand is a great suggestion. Don't see it happening, but I think it's a great suggestion. But I'm just astounded, Bruce, by how many people just ignore the reality of what we know to be the truth. You're familiar with my friend Brad Friedman at bradblog.com. Brad was covering this issue long before anybody else was. And in fact, when I first had him on my show 10 years ago, people thought he was a kook. Now he's the go-to guy when election integrity issues come up, because he's now so well versed in it. And so I just don't understand, again, any activist, anybody that has a cause, every woman, man, child, minority, you name it. Why would this not be the number one thing they'd want to fix? That's the part that flummoxes me, buddy. I mean, I really don't get why people aren't just clamoring. This isn't a conspiracy theory. The data exists. This is bad news for all of us.
Well, it definitely is, and Mira has done. We were able to get a hold of the ballots. In fact, the Republican Attorney General Mike Cox put out a ruling that he ruled that ballots are public documents and they can be subject to FOIA. So we did that in Allegan County, and the results. We have another report about what we found, and it's on the Mira website. People can go read it. And you mentioned the civil disobedience. I was talking to Jan Bendor, who's the statewide coordinator for Mira, and she didn't. I don't think she surrounded the machine the way Jonathan was talking about, but she said that in one election she was going to go ahead and hand count her ballots just to verify the results from the machines. And she got a very threatening letter from Chris Thomas, the supervisor of elections in Michigan. She was threatened with arrest if she did what she was planning to do. And I did talk to Jan after Jonathan's appearance, because I was listening to your show in the car as I was driving to Madison. And I said, we really ought to do that. And we might do it in the next cycle, but we want to make sure if we do it, that we have money lined up for bail. If people get arrested, we want to see if we're on solid ground to actually do an act of civil disobedience like that, because that's not a minor undertaking. It sounds like it's minor to just surround a machine, but you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row and that you're prepared for the consequences.
Absolutely, and we only have a couple short minutes left, and I want to mention as we work our way through the program today, we're going to talk about some national issues, a boatload of statewide issues, and it all starts with the people we elect. And Bruce, you heard me give a speech a couple months ago where somebody said, well, what we need to do is make sure in 2016 we elect the right people. Well, first of all, we can talk redistricting till we're blue in the face, and yes, that is part of the problem. But until we fix the election process, none of it matters. And I'm not even worried about hackers on the outside. I'm worried about the corporations on the inside. And if people think we're crazy and that's conspiracy theory, then they're just not paying attention, Bruce.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Tony. This is not a tinfoil type of thing. We have verifiable proof that Jonathan has stuff in his book. We have done our homework. We have been looking at this issue for 6 or 7 years now. This is not something we're Johnny-come-latelys to at the Michigan Election Reform Alliance. We've put forward legislation. We want to have an audit bill. We've been trying to get an audit bill through the legislature in Michigan so that, like Jonathan was saying, at least have random audits so that we can tell with some verifiable proof whether the machines are counting the votes right. And, you only have to audit a very small amount of the machines around the state to be able to tell if there's any funny business going on with our elections. And, we work so hard as Democrats, even Republicans. This is not a partisan issue, Tony. That's what I think people really don't understand sometimes, too, is, Republicans should be just as concerned about fixing this problem as Democrats are. And not every Democrat even. They're not all paying attention yet. Hopefully my conversation with Tim will light a fire under some of the Democrats and hopefully some Republicans, too. We need some Republican co-sponsors for the legislation that we put forward.
Absolutely. Well, Bruce, we're just out of time for today. I want to thank you for yours. Enjoy your